You're listening and watching to Fueled by Death Wish, the world's strongest Fueled by Deathcast presents Fueled by Deathcast, the world's strongest podcast, with your host,
Brock. What are you doing? Is that the amazing D-Man?
The one and only.
I thought you lost my address.
Hi, this is Mike Brown, owner of Death Wish Coffee Company. Welcome to Fueled by Deathcast.
I love Jeff, but sweet and hot.
Death Wish Coffee presents Fueled by Deathcast, the world's strongest podcast. With your hosts, the incredible Jeff and the amazing D-Man.
Welcome to Fueled by Deathcast. This is episode 114, and it's a really special episode for us because the voice of death himself, Brock Powell, is our guest, and we'll get to that in just 1 second. First and foremost, I am the incredible Jeff.
And I am the amazing D-Man.
And we'd love it if you followed us on social media. It's really easy to do. I am at Jeff Wish Coffee.
And I am at Death Wish Dustin.
And you can follow everything the show does at Fueled by Deathcast on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And before we get into the show, I wanted to shout out a couple of our favorite friends and podcasters out there. We've been shouting them out the last couple episodes. First and foremost, guest that we had on a couple shows back, Mr. Throwback Thursday, for all your classic hip-hop. If you guys want to check out Mr. TBT, the Mr. Throwback Thursday podcast, they're on everywhere you can find iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, all that stuff. Also, Ricky Rackman has gotten into the podcast game with his podcast, Cat House Hollywood Podcast. They're doing a live episode in March. If you guys are in California, look that up. You guys could be part of his podcast. That's a lot of fun, too. And finally, one of our friends of the show, guy who helped us out in the very beginning, Mr. Matthew Hendershot, is started a brand new podcast out when he moved out to Germany. It's called I'll Take a Shot at That. And I've got a fun bump, actually, for this brand new podcast right here.
Hey everyone, my name is Matthew Hendershot.
And I'm Jake.
And I'm Justin.
We are three Leipzig, Germany transplants kicking off a brand new podcast called I'll Take a Shot at That. My friends and I will be setting out on adventures and having conversations from the unique to the mundane, and we will be taking a shot at figuring out this crazy modern world.
Basically, we'll be BBC, NPR, CNN, rolled into
Fox
one.
News.
That too. Providing...
Whoa, slow your roll,
I think he's got it.
It's much more likely that what we're going to turn out to be is a room full of half-drunken idiots spreading a thick layer of bovine excrement over the news of the day and whatever it is we feel like
much better
about.
And more credible.
I'll Take a Shot at That will be published weekly and is available on iTunes, Google Play, and all the other major publication platforms.
We can also be found in all the best time-wasting social media out there, like Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, all at /shot at that.
I can't wait to get started.
Let's get started.
Certainly, I will take a shot at that.
I'll take a shot at that.
Cheers.
So that's going to be a lot of fun. They're going to talk about all sorts of stuff while getting drunk, which is, obviously a lot of fun. I'm sure.
Well, it's fun the night that you do it. It's never fun the next day.
It's never fun the next day. But we love all our friends out there in the podcast world, and as much as, we love our own show, obviously, and thank you guys for watching and listening, we would love it if you checked out some of the other podcasts out there as well.
Secret code unlocked. Discount of death.
As always, the discount of death is available on deathwishcoffee.com in your little discount code area. Make sure you type in discount of death to get 12% off of everything we have on our website.
And that's going to go forever and ever and ever. So 12% off of everything. That includes everything you see there and everything that's coming out. We got some really fun stuff coming out in the immediate future, as well as throughout the entire year. And discount of death, all one word, will nail you that 12% off at deathwishcoffee.com.
Also, discount of Jeff.
All right, guys, this episode is going to feature the voice of death, Brock Powell, and I've been really excited to give you guys this interview since we recorded it last year. Brock has been our friend on this show since its inception, and when we went out to Los Angeles last year on our incredible adventure, we not only interviewed Brock for the second time on this show, but he was nice enough to put us up for a week.
Yeah, and the first time we interviewed him wasn't in person, but
Not at
this
all.
was after a long week of smashing interviews, and I feel like it might have been the very best interview of the whole entire week, and it was how we finished it up.
It really was because, at the outset of it, Brock's hilarious. Brock is he has 1,000 voices. We say that all the time. Follow him at brockvox.com.
He's charismatic, he's
Yeah.
charming, he's fun.
But the thing is that, the first time we had him on the show, we talked about how he got into voice acting.
Yeah.
This time, it wasn't just a bunch of, fun and circumstance, which, we had a lot of fun with Brock, but
Yeah.
as you're going to see, we really delve into the history of voice acting and what he does to prepare. I thought that was some of the most interesting stuff because when you really think about it, his instrument is his vocal cords.
Yeah.
And you have to be very careful. If anybody knows, if you've, sat at a rock concert yelling at your favorite band for, an hour, or if you've been a public speaker, when you're done, you feel that,
And then on top of that, you're pretending to do voices that are not your actual voice. Therefore, you're stretching your vocal cords in weird ways.
Sometimes he's an animal. Sometimes he's a
Exact-
monster.
He's
an
literally
alien.
making monster sounds for
Yeah.
hours.
Yeah.
Try it today.
Yeah.
Sit down right now, make monster sounds for an hour, and see if you can do monster sounds tomorrow.
So anybody who's a fan of this show has obviously heard Brock on this show, but anybody who's a fan of voice acting or animation, this is going to be the interview for you. So mugs up this week for this week's death guest, Brock Powell.
BrockFox.com.
The Fueled by Death guest.
This wild roller coaster of a relationship that we have is has been pretty fun, and
Yes.
That just makes it sound like it has its ups and its downs, Jeff.
I don't think there's been a down yet.
Yeah, then it's not a roller coaster.
That's true.
What is it if it's just up?
It's a rocket.
We're a rocket ship of love. That's what we are. Okay, and
Definitely.
and podcast. No, seriously though, we just finished up a week long out here in your neck of the woods on
Yeah.
the West Coast, which was great. And again, being able to talk with people in person always makes a better conversation. And the first time we met you was in Baltimore at Baltimore Comic Con, and we actually got to talk to you in person. And that seems like a million years ago.
Feels like I was a different person. ages
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah, seriously.
How long was that? 3 years now?
2016, I believe it was. Yeah. So-
Pre-Trump.
Yeah.
The
And-
happier times.
Yeah, happier times. And since then, obviously, you're the voice of this show, and you've been doing a lot of stuff out there in the world. And one of the things when we first met you that we didn't even talk about, because I don't even think you could talk about it yet, was the show that you're currently on the Disney Channel.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can we talk about about this show, Milo's Murphy's Law?
Yes.
Milo Murphy's Law.
It is. So I've got a friend that works on the show with me. I always say the name wrong because I'm like, yeah, Milo's.
Milo's, yeah, I do.
Yeah,
it's
right.
Tick, right?
So,
yeah.
so if it's Milo's, then it would be Milo's Murphy's Law. But it's Milo Murphy's Law.
Yeah.
Was on Disney XD, and I believe now is going to be season 1 is going to be rerunning on Disney Channel starting in September, which is great.
Yes.
And I basically had the opportunity to work with Dan and Swampy Marsh, who were the creators of Phineas and Ferb.
Phineas and Ferb. One
Right.
of the greatest shows Disney
Yeah.
put out in the last couple of years, for sure.
Easily. And this show was something that if you like Phineas and Ferb and you like Doctor Who and you like sci-fi and comedy, it really leans very, very hard into it feels like Phineas and Ferb meets Back to the Future is like the best way that I can explain it. There is an over a narrative that is building throughout the whole season, but you don't necessarily know that as you're watching it because it feels like each episode is sort of standalone.
Okay.
But then they land this amazing story of saving the whole planet and stuff that's sort of been going underneath
so cool.
the whole time. And I get to do a lot of additional voices in that, which means I could in an episode I could be anything from like a handful of monsters or aliens, or even a kid that goes to school with the main character. So the main character is voiced by Weird Al Yankovic,
which is awesome.
which is amazing.
How great is he? He seems like such a great guy.
Yeah, he's absolutely just down. Like the biggest kid. He's just always gregarious, and even if you talk to him about something that he's done, he gets excited about the excitement you have about the thing that he did,
which is awesome.
But it isn't necessarily like a narcissistic, like, well, I'm glad you like it. Like he's like, oh, you really like that. Like it's
That's
just
so cool.
It's really cool.
That's so cool.
And of all the shows that I've been working on, like since we started talking, I think Milo has had a really big place in my heart because the team has just been so collaborative, and very early on they would let me, be in there and play around, and
that's awesome.
And I remember one particular time where, we were about to move on, and I had done a couple voices on a thing, and Dan had grabbed the talkback. So when you're in a recording session, the guy on the other side of the glass is the performer, and then on the other side are the producers and the directors, and just like hit the talkback and like, you got 1,000 voices in there. What else you got? And like, just the challenge and the constant collaboration.
Cool. That's so cool.
And season 2, which is on its way, and I'm really, really excited about that. And I can say it includes a Phineas and Ferb crossover episode.
That's exciting.
The first.
So they exist in the same universe then.
You'll have to wait and see, but they will be appearing in the crossover episode next year, which is really just, we're so thrilled because like, everybody's been working on this for the last couple of years. It's just been watching this really cool narrative come together, and you get to play with these great characters. Tiny earthquake. We're in.
Oh no, it's just kitty cat.
Oh, it's the cat. Oh, good.
Yes.
Yeah, great.
Daniel needed to make his debut.
Yes.
But that sounds like such a great environment, and you have there's an incredible cast of characters on Milo.
Yeah.
Like a ton of great voice actors and writers and directors.
People that you've if you enjoyed Phineas and Ferb, a lot of the writers from that have moved over to that. But they're on the voiceover side. It's always crazy too. It's more like who isn't on Milo, because they create characters, and very, very early on it'll be like, oh, we want to get so-and-so, So a couple of the cast members from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. are on.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, Ming and the guy who plays...
You're blanking.
I am totally blanking. I'm losing my nerd mojo.
Does he play an Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
He does. He plays Dalton. Brett Dalton.
Oh,
does that
cool.
sound good?
Yes.
Yeah. Are you just nodding like, yeah?
He was a major part of that show until spoilers stuff happened to his character.
What happened? Contract negotiations.
So when you're doing a day of work on a show like this, are you actually working with all the voice actors throughout the day? How's that look?
That's a good question.
Thank you.
So typically, they used to do that tandem recording.
Yeah.
But it's, I think from what I've been told from an engineering standpoint, and it makes sense, it's much easier to have the actors one at a time, because you reduce like the chance of like another loud performance bleeding onto another mic and stuff like that. But you do lose that kind of spontaneity and the ability to like, there is just this like hot potato feeling when you're recording with other people that you guys, you experience when you do a podcast.
Yeah.
It's the same thing when you're pretending to do these characters.
Right.
I did have a chance. I can't talk about what it is.
Okay.
But I can tell you that Bill Farmer and I got a chance to
work together.
And
you were in the same room together.
And they
working?
surprised us by booking us together and having us record at the same time.
And that's the first time that you guys have worked together as voice actors.
Mm-hmm.
That's so, like, I mean, and that's full circle. Because, like, when we had you on the show to begin with, we talked about your journey to become a voice actor, how you wrote that original letter to Bill, and how, he's taken you under his wing and has mentored you, in this industry. And now, full circle, you guys get to be in a booth together. Was that surreal?
It was great. What was so funny was we're going for like 30 minutes. We're doing voices, and about 30 minutes go by, and the engineer's like, okay, guys, we should probably do the script now. Like it was just like, without even realizing that we'd done it, we had just eaten 30 minutes of time, because you're just in there playing and just, and just doing all sorts of crazy stuff. And I think that day we were doing something related to creatures or animals and stuff, which is kind of a part of voiceover I've been really digging and getting a little more into.
The whole alien monster.
Somebody's got to make the monster.
Yeah, no, it's nuts because there is as freeing as voice acting is, because you get to just be totally imaginative and come up with stuff. Like you get when you do creature work, you get to voice things that don't exist or have mouths or have any sort of
Right.
Do you get to see the creature before you
Yeah,
make the noise? Because I feel
usually.
like you would need to see the shape of its face.
What does its
Yeah.
mouth look like? And
That's-
like,
yeah,
Does it have
usually.
dangly dudes, and is it full of liquid in its mouth?
Does
Most
it have a mouth?
does it have a mouth?
Yeah.
Does it talk through its butt?
yeah.
No, I want it. I wanted it. But so I've been doing more of that, and I had a chance. I'm in the latest God of War game.
Yes.
Released in April.
Yes, so cool.
So I'm one of the bosses in that, and that was a wild experience because we're getting to the point now where the things that I'm working on are things that I was a fan of when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Because it all sort of is cyclical.
Yeah.
So all the auditions I get that are coming in are things they're bringing that back. They're doing this again, and there's just this. It feels like Christmas because I got into this because I was a fan of it, and now as I'm moving ahead and auditioning and getting to work on things, I'm getting to work on things that I'm already a fan of.
Yeah.
It's kind of a trippy
That is so cool. And that's one of the reasons why you get into the business to begin with, because you want to work on the stuff you love. Like,
Yeah.
that's why you even thought probably one day, I want to do this. Like, because the people that you're, like loving or doing the things that you love, and you want to be like that.
Well, and the quick history of voiceover. Voiceover used to be a very, very tiny group of people. Not tiny people, but like
Tiny people. Like, they had to fashion mics, like really tiny.
actually they were tiny. June Foray and Daz Butler were little people.
Yeah,
but
they were kinda.
So back when voiceover, obviously, animation has only been around since 1928. The
Right.
first talking cartoon
Right,
was created by Walt Disney. So Walt Disney was the first voice actor. He did the voice of Mickey, and he created an industry. And because vaudeville existed and radio existed well before animated cartoons,
right.
they pulled in a lot of radio stars. But then they would get a core group of people. And when it first started, it was like Mel Blanc, June Foray, Daz Butler, Paul Frees, and a handful of others.
Right.
And they were just used time and time again.
Yeah.
So that takes you basically from like the 30s to the 50s. Then all of a sudden, more voice actors started to get sort of pulled in. More character actors. Sterling Holloway, who was a character actor, takes over for Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah.
Disney starts bringing more people in. Phil Harris, who was a big band leader, gets brought in to voice Baloo, and it starts to become a celebrity field.
Yeah.
And then also a field of just voiceover professionals.
Yeah.
Into Saturday morning cartoons, when all of a sudden, what used to be a couple channels on television and maybe some commercials, like once in a while, Tony the Tiger would come up and be like, they're great.
Right.
But now, the 70s and the 80s, when cartoons start being a thing that's every day, and a whole day once a week, they had to blow open the field and get as many voice actors in. And so a bunch of people got into the business in the 70s and 80s. A lot of them were musicians. A lot of them were stand-up.
Yep.
A lot of them were actors who were doing on camera, and voiceover was not a thing that they wanted to do.
Right.
But now we're getting into the place where the people that grew up in the 70s and 80s are old enough to get into the business, and they are getting into it because they know the job.
Right.
They want to be voice actors. This is the first, I think, one of the first generations of like actors that are specifically like, that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
Partly because of the I Know That Voice.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Right, it brought a lot of things into the mainframe.
Totally.
And just with the internet and special features being out there, you have the ability to like, people become aware of it, and it's like you're pseudo aware of it. There's this Reddit meme that I love that's like, going through the credits of The Lion King, and the bottom it's like additional lion voices, Frank Welker, and someone on Reddit's like, all the lions in The Lion King were voiced by some guy named Frank. Never Stop Dreaming, And then under that, some guy who's just a super fan is like, Frank Welker was the voice of Megatron, Fred on Scooby-Doo,
Everything, yeah.
Cujo.
Yeah.
Like, have some respect. He's your childhood.
Yeah.
And it's like people take a real serious stance on it. I think it's a really cool time because this is the time that everyone is just like so passionate about being a fan, and being somebody who's a fan, and I guess also providing things to have fans of.
Yeah.
Has been a real trip.
Yeah, and speaking on as a kid from the 80s too, like animation, like you said, it was the Saturday morning cartoons or it was the weekly show. We live in this age now where animation is everything. It's our prime time,
it's our highest
sitcoms.
selling movies.
It's our highest selling movies. And it's everything. And we get a lot more of the insight of this industry thanks to this boon of animation. Like, I want to say, thank you to Disney, because as a Disney fan, when they've went back into their vaults and have released, some of these movies again on Blu-ray, the special features are amazing.
Yeah.
Being able to see, the voice actors, working on like Cinderella or Sleeping Beauty and seeing that behind the scenes that you've never seen these nuggets of information before, and Disney's so great at dusting off all these old things and like putting them in the Blu-rays. This is
why
amazing.
I love talking to Jeff, because he's like on the same level when it comes to the voiceover nerdery. And on behalf of both of us, I need to apologize.
It's okay. I learn more every day.
I love it.
No, I remember even being a little kid and being so curious as to who is behind the voice of that character, and when you got to see it, it was always such a like a treat.
Yeah,
and see them do it was always like, wow, it doesn't even look right.
Oh my god, yeah.
It's can you grab that Funko right there?
All right,
can you grab that?
Yeah, sure.
This I keep this in my booth. This is Al's first wish from Aladdin.
Yep.
This was the first time I ever became aware of like.
Robin
an actor?
It was Robin doing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was because this was the first time that it was like that performance was. It was magic. It was just pure magic. And I remember when he passed, they released some of the unused footage.
Oh wow!
Of him doing the characters and the impressions that didn't make it into the movie.
Oh.
And Eric Goldberg came in and I guess did some pencil sketches over it, just as like a tribute. It wasn't full animated, but just like an animatic. And I have to say that was the first time that I ever really noticed impressions and what you can do with your voice and the kind of flexibility you have, jump from character to character. But it's that energy. It's that kind of like the feeling that you could,
be really small,
be really big, go over here, do that. And like that kind of thing that Robin had, I think, just really, really stuck with me.
Totally. I'll tell you one of my earliest memories. And this is where the curtain was pulled back for me. My parents were very big Carson fans.
Oh yeah.
And it was after my bedtime, but like they would tape it a lot on VHS and stuff. And so sometimes I would sit with my dad and watch Carson from the night before or whatever. And I remember watching Mel Blanc on Carson, and he just effortlessly went into Bugs and Daffy and did them all. Just in a conversation, and it is a small kid.
I remember
blew
that.
my mind.
I remember that.
I was like, oh my god, this man is my favorite things. Like and Bugs Bunny is this man.
You never know it was one person either. It's such a strange, like mysterious, magical skill. It's so weird.
So Mel's a great example, kind of like bringing it all together with the narrative through line there. Mel started in radio on the Jack Benny Show.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And I think the thing is, I'm just such a student of comedy. Like I was raised by my granddad, and my dad raised me on like The Jerk and a lot of Rob Reiner and the Stooges and all this stuff. So I'm a student of like comedic timing. And the Warner Brothers shorts from the 30s and the 40s are still to this day some of the most. And I think it's because of the music, because they used actual like orchestrated music from the Warner Brothers catalog, and incorporated that into the animation. That the timing is just so perfect.
Yes.
But Mel was on Jack Benny's radio show, and he
was also on when it went to television, right? He was part of.
Yeah, he did the whole like next stop or Cucamonga. He did the train guy, and then he did this sketch that I don't know if people would still consider it funny, because he plays this guy who's like sort of that lazy Hispanic stereotype.
Right.
Which back at that time was just
fine,
prevalent.
Yep. Yeah.
But he does a really funny bit with like the guy could only say "see."
Oh,
like,
I remember that bit. Yeah.
See, sigh, so it's funny. It's just the comedy rhythm. But he got started in doing vocalization full time on the Jack Benny show, and the story that he tells or told. Come on in, Mel. But the story that he would tell was they'd be in the studio, they'd be recording, and at that time they had sound effects on phonographs.
Oh wow!
And that's where they would have a guy like if it was something the Foley guy couldn't make, they would have a phonograph of like certain sounds. So Jack Benny had this old Maxwell car that was like Rochester, bring around the old Maxwell. Okay, Mr. Benny. And the car sound's supposed to happen, and Mel was there. It was like his first or second time recording there, and he noticed that the phonograph was unplugged, and they were recording essentially live, like they could not go back and fix this.
Right.
Yeah.
So he jumps up to
Going
the mic.
reel to reel at
It
that
was
point.
it was just a nightmare. Yeah. And this was like would have been probably like the early 30s.
Yeah.
He notices that the phonograph's not ready, and he hears the cue. He sees it in the script, and he just jumps up and like, and just makes the car sound.
Right.
Which he later used for like Speed Buggy.
Oh,
for
totally,
Hanna-Barbera.
yeah.
But that was the time that like he got up there. Jack Benny was like, "We're never doing a show without this guy again." And fast forward to, he moved on to obviously voice almost all of the Looney Tunes.
Yeah.
And the only time he worked for Disney was on Pinocchio.
I didn't know that.
And he played a drunk character that was, I think it was the Gentle John. Honest John is the fox. And then there was Gideon, the little drunk cat in Pinocchio, who doesn't talk. Because after the bulk of the movie had been recorded, Mel Blanc was very famous for doing like a really great, like, you don't know how dry I am kind of drunk. Speaking of drunk cat, that's my actual drunk cat. But it's not a real bird, don't worry. They ended up cutting all of the dialogue out and leaving in one hiccup. That was Mel Blanc. And that was the only time Mel got to work with Disney. So it's hard to know if something happened behind the scenes.
Because I wonder, like, because I know, like, it's not common in voice acting industry that you guys are like, what's the word that I like, exclusive, right? Like, I mean, like, you work on a Disney Channel show, but you're not exclusive to Disney. Like, if Warner Brothers, you could go out to an audition for a Warner Brothers thing or something, right?
Yeah. Well, Well, so case in point, like, I work on a show on Disney, and I've worked on a couple other projects with them that are coming out, and I'm excited about that. But I get to audition for DreamWorks. I get to audition for Nickelodeon, I've worked on projects that are on competing streaming platforms, and
that's the same even with like Bill, like the voice of Goofy since '87. Yet he's done voices for everybody.
I mean, he was in the same year that Goofy movie came out. I think a year after that Space Jam came out.
Yeah,
which he was in.
Yeah.
So he was recording those most likely in tandem. And yeah, there's no exclusivity. So I work the most with Disney. I love Disney the most.
Yes.
But then I've also had a chance to work with Sony on their Hotel Transylvania game.
Yeah.
So I do the voice of Drac in the new Hotel Transylvania 3 game, Monsters Overboard.
Let's talk about that. Like, I mean, that's a different side of voice acting because that is technically what in the business they call voice matching. And you're literally matching the voice that Adam Sandler is doing in the movies, right? Yeah. For that game. What is that like? Is that a different aspect to the career? Is it a lot of the same? Do you kind of draw from the same kind of thing?
How deep do you go? Do you dress like Adam Sandler?
Well, what's funny is we were talking before we recorded, like we were doing little Nicky impressions.
Yeah.
Need some Popeyes. Like I always loved Sandler comedies like growing up.
Oh, totally.
And funny enough, you'll hear my cat running around and crying. This particular character voice was a voice that I would use to talk to my cat. I had
really,
yeah. So this is true.
This version of Sandler.
This particular voice just has a really weird cadence, and I would often talk to my cat like, Danny, what's wrong, Danny? Oh, don't do that, Danny. And I didn't necessarily know what it was from. I picked it up. It's called an earworm, like a piece of music. A piece of music or like a vocal tick, like Trump's like. Fabulous, wonderful.
Yeah, it just sits there, and you're like, "Where's that from?"
Where's that from? Yeah. And so I had heard the voice and had picked it up, and when I had a chance to audition for it, I realized like, oh wow, I already do that. And then it's really just about layering the timing in there, and you really want to perform it this is where the extra step comes in. You're not just doing an impression. You're impersonating the choices that actor would make.
Oh,
wow.
So if in the, like, for example, in the game and the cinematic stuff, when there are moments with like the Dracula's talking to his daughter and he's trying to be consoling, there's a different way that I would act that beat as Brock doing the character, and there's a different way that Adam would do it. And so a lot of times you just have to kind of play around with explaining your choices because you'll go through with the director and you'll record it and go a couple takes and go, I think Adam would do this. Here's what I would do just as an option. And it was interesting to see it all get finished out. And, because basically the game follows a very kind of Pikmin-esque strategy, and it's a lot of me just like, go here, go there, stop. And the movie came out this year. Everyone seemed to, killed at the box office.
Did great. It was #1 for like a couple days there, which is awesome.
Yeah, it was just really cool, and I guess a lot of kids enjoyed the game, and it was so fun to be able to work on that.
Yeah.
And games have been. I've got 2 more games coming out this year that I can't talk about.
Right.
But games are. I'm a nerd. I love video games. So that's such a different realm of voiceover.
Is it a large? It's got to be from what I know about video games. It has to be such a larger job.
It's like because every movement of the character.
Yeah, because you're doing a lot of
right. So, case in point, Milo. Most of those episodes are 11 minutes long.
Right.
A video game, a good video game,
like God of War,
needs to run 20 to 40 hours of narrative gameplay.
Right.
Like not just the 80 hours it would take to collect all the whatevers. But they have to have just tons and tons of options, and especially because full circle with the creature stuff. Because when I end up doing creatures or villains or things, I'm having to provide specific sounds for whatever the character chooses. So if you ever played Shadow of Mordor, I know a bunch of guys who worked on that who were like afterwards were just like, okay, bye, because they had to be orcs in character.
Oh my God.
And doing you're an orc getting shot with an arrow through your left eye, now the right eye, now the stomach.
Oh my
and
God.
And all those sounds have to have a sound bed variation, and that was why for a while, the SAG was on strike against video games because the vocal health has become a really big concern. Because as these games are getting more cinematic and longer, the tendency is to push the actor to get it all done in one session. And the pressure on an actor can be really, really tough, and a lot of actors don't feel comfortable saying, hey, I got to break this up. You because inherently actors are there because they're enjoying it and they want to push themselves.
Right.
And they want to perform well. just like anybody else, and they want to get another job after this.
Yep.
They probably want to be hired by this giant video game company
but
again.
the cool thing is a lot of these places have started to be proactive about it. And Blizzard's one of the best examples.
Really?
Oh,
They will break up the takes. They have a little room that they call
smart if you want longevity.
Yeah. Well, you sit in that chair. You don't get on your phone. You don't talk to anybody, because one of the things in voiceover is typically after a session, your sessions can last. Like yesterday, I won't say for what. I went in and I did one line.
Right.
But I was booked for 4 hours. So you just go and hang out because you're just there and you know all the other actors coming in and you like everybody. But if you're doing a video game and you're talking on your breaks and doing stuff like that, it sounds so silly. Your voice isn't getting a chance to rest.
No, I used to deal with the same thing, singing for a band,
right?
Especially on tour and stuff like that. You're especially in a loud room and you're talking loud to everybody. You're everywhere you go and you're talking like this and you're really excited and talking about the next show and everything. Yep. And then by the time you get on stage and your voice is dead, let alone the next day and the next day and the next day. And that's usually why you don't see singers doing interviews.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. More often than not, if you're ever looking for band interviews, it's almost never the singer unless it's prestigious, like a Rolling Stone or something like that.
That's really interesting
because there's no reason for it, or if they're not on tour, that's the best time to talk to a singer. But it's the truth.
Yeah, it's tough. So that's pretty common practice as far as I know. But it would surprise people how much you wear out your vocal cords talking in a loud room. It's
they're little muscles, and you're pushing a lot of air through. And when you're making sounds that aren't necessarily sounds your body makes, right? So I'll get asked to make a pig sound, like, I'm doing something to my body that it's not meant to do.
Yeah.
And there are certain numbers of voices, there's certain numbers, like I can't do that more than 15 times, and I'll tell someone like if we need this sound, like you need to
you
fall
ever
from the sky.
practice and then make tally marks and be like, I can make the pig noise
well,
26 times without it vaulting.
You just know. You just
Yeah.
know. Like I can't do that. You know, there's certain ones that like I'm a little hoarse right now actually. But I'm a little raw from a session I had last week working on a video game that I can't talk about. But I'm really excited about. That just shredded my chords.
Yeah.
I mean, because what happens a lot of times, and this is what caused a lot of tension with actors and video game companies for a little bit, was these projects are so high profile that you'll get like, you know, Shadow Warrior 2 script. Like, oh, Shadow Warrior, and you're like, oh, he's a ninja warrior and he's protecting his city and he wants to avenge his parents' death. Like, okay. Then you show up and you're Batman. It's a Batman game.
Oh my God.
They didn't tell you. No. So
oh my God.
So like, you know, for God of War, I had no idea I was going in for God of War. I had no idea what it was. So
but you know day of, like you walk in and then you...
Well, it's hard to keep it a secret at that point. Because it's like, oh, that's Kratos. Or you guys are going to get sued because that looks a lot like Kratos. Right. You know? Hey, do you guys know that looks like another game?
Deity of violence.
Hey, write that down. Deity of violence.
Deity of violence.
I love that. That's funny. So that happens a lot because you go into for a video game session and you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Like you know the type of game. This is a military game.
Right.
This is a game, but also, like, I always laugh because they're like, well, you know it was an action game. I'm like, first of all, unless it's like Super Bust-A-Move or like the weird monkey catching game that PlayStation had.
Yeah.
They're all action games.
Right.
So the difference is I just have to know, like, am I the guy that's the villain that's talking like this a lot? Or am I the dude who's like, get down, watch out? And sometimes they won't tell you. And
wow.
So this last session that I had, I walked in and I was one of the leads, and they didn't mention to me that I was a lead in Mortal Peril the whole time. So all of the lines are called out over all this violence and chaos. So a normal script, I'm going through a normal script of like, I don't know, like 150 lines or something, but they're all at this volume with this level of intensity.
Right.
And like then add in the like, come on, we gotta go. Like,
right.
That's just your instrument gets really tired.
Right. Yeah.
I haven't recovered.
Is there certain things that you do to recover?
Mm-hmm. You want to see?
Yeah.
This is like Mr. Rogers. Stay right there.
He said talk, not make stupid sounds, Jeff.
So anyway, Dustin, what fuels you to hate me so much?
Okay. No,
Your presence.
I'm super serious about vocal health. So, because I used to lose my voice a lot, and part of it is just because you're playing around with sounds. Fresh honey is amazing, and local honey, helpful in tea and hot water. Throat coat tea, everyone will tell you about it.
Yep.
The key is to steep it. I like to let it not be super hot. I don't have any right now, but there's this loquat syrup called Nin Jim Pipakao, which is a you can look it up if you look up Chinese loquat syrup. You can get it on Amazon. But a lot of metalheads use it.
Yeah.
And Blizzard actually stocks it in what they call the Orc Self-Care Kit, which is
that's hilarious.
So for all their guys,
they have so many orcs.
Yeah, for all their guys, they have like this syrup, and it's like a menthol, and
that's
it takes the swelling out. Billie Holiday's old method, pineapple juice.
Yeah.
So if I'm shredding my voice, yeah, absolutely. She used to go nuts.
Yeah.
And then she'd get up and she'd have some, because there's enzymes in the pineapple juice that reduce the swelling in the throat tissue.
Ew.
Your voice, your vocal cords look like this. And liquid does not touch them unless you're a mutant. So drinking tea and those sort of things only help to alleviate the muscles around the vocal cords to allow them to sort of relax.
Oh.
So there's very little you do that actually touches the vocal cords. But the pineapple juice reduces the inflammation. This is the silliest thing ever. And this is
that just a straw?
It's just a straw. This is like a straw you get from a donut store unless
Like
you're in
a
California.
cocktail straw. Yeah.
Really small diameter.
Super illegal in California.
Super illegal. This is actually, I think, like ATF is outside, right? So what you do is you push air through on this. We did not talk about doing this, by the way. We're just jumping in.
No, I'm so curious. I'm so curious.
No, seriously, if you're like, because you have all sorts of people that watch the show.
Of course, of course.
This is something that, like, if you do any kind of public speaking, I don't care if it's like you're doing like a folk rock cover band, or Toastmasters. This is a thing that if you're ever feeling like, and it happens. We're in different climates, especially out here. The weather changes a lot,
or you get weird sleep.
You get weird sleep, or like for me, what happens is my voice doesn't get a chance to rest because I work. If I work a couple times a week, every day I'm not working, I'm auditioning for other work.
Right.
So the voice isn't resting.
Right.
Just because I'm not getting paid doesn't mean that these puppies are sitting cool.
Right.
And then the natural local honey is really good because if you have any allergies, they say that local honey is the best because it collects the pollen that's causing the allergies, and you're basically like
cleansing.
You're building a tolerance, kind of like a Princess Bride. So what we're gonna do is this is just lip trills are a thing that you use. Make a cooing sound, make yourself look like an idiot. And what that does is vocal warm-ups allow your voice to just get settled to true zero so you can start doing weird things with it. When your voice is tired like this, my voice right now has a lot of extra air going through. There's some swelling, there's all this stuff that happens. And this was developed by a doctor, I forget the name, but for people with Parkinson's, because what happens with Parkinson's, they get very shaky. The vocal cords can't really connect. So pushing a lot of air through and causing the vocal folds, you're actually pushing air over your vocal cords, and it's cool and reducing the swelling. And I forget what they call this, but it's basically the straw trick. And you make this sound. You don't have to roll your tongue if you can't. You could even just do a woo woo woo, and you put it into this little straw. The doctor invented it. Does a song like and after that, about 2 minutes after a session, your voice should feel just very like, I cannot explain it aside from the air goes over the vocal cords, reduces the swelling, and you just feel like,
that's
not so bad. So if I'm feeling soft like today and I've got to go record some auditions later, I will keep the straw in my car, and I have a bunch of them. I just have 100 of them. You got to take care of it.
That's incredible. That's really, really interesting because it is a thing. It's like you said, like, even when you're not working, you're working. Like,
right.
How many, out of curiosity, how many auditions do you do in a week, would you say?
It honestly really depends.
Obviously.
Yeah. No. I mean, like, sometimes it's on average like 20 a week usually.
Wow.
Yeah.
What's like a big week?
Right before Christmas. Right before a holiday.
Yeah.
Last minute stuff.
And then you're doing 30?
Yeah. The one that's killer is when a video game comes out and they just send you all the characters or all the things.
Oh my gosh.
So
you're
of the
auditioning
times,
for multiple characters.
It's one project, but you're auditioning for multiple things.
Holy crap.
And then you're doing multiple takes of that.
Holy crap.
Because a lot of times, I don't know if Bill shared this with you, but he has this thing that he would always tell me, which is really helpful because it helps take ego out of it. When you're an actor, especially a voice actor, you're a plumber. You go in, you want to fix their problem.
Right.
They've got a problem.
Right.
You have a toolkit with things that can fix their problem. So all you have to do is show up, be confident, and do the best you can to fix their problem and give them some options. So when you audition, this is what it sounds like if I use this. This is what it sounds like if I do that. And all you're doing is like, here you go. I want to fix your problem here. And you offer the best you can, and then you leave it at the door. And that's it. Let it go. And
that's very egoless.
Right. But do plumbers ever walk around? I always think about, like, if plumbers acted like
Let me
actors.
tell you about the sink that I fixed.
Right.
And,
right?
Yeah.
Like, if they had that, like, oh, man, there was this double... there was a double stuffer down in Tucson that you wouldn't believe. It was, like, no, never. Like they never, ever have any sort of ego. And they also never have the confidence of, like, hey, I fixed your toilet. Was that good? Did I do that okay? Like,
right.
The actors.
Oh, wow.
Is your toilet working all
right? Is it okay? Do you like me?
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
So I've heard of a lot of rock singers end up having to get like vocal surgery.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
Does that happen with voice actors as well?
It does, but there actually is a doctor that SAG is working in tandem with now. That she works at the like Osborne Neck and Throat Clinic, and it's up the street from the Union.
Mm-hmm.
They go in and they actually like sonically scope your vocal cords.
Yep.
Wow.
There's certain things that like if you have like a nodule, which is like a hard polyp, like a soft polyp is basically like a blister or a rug burn. You just you talk too much and you wore your vocal folds out.
Yeah.
You rest, you could be okay. If you did something really strenuous and caused like a hard node, that could require surgery.
Interesting.
But for a lot of actors, that can, because then you get into the risk of like vocal paralysis and stuff like that.
Is that what gives you a gravelly voice? Is
me?
Anybody? Any person?
No, I have. I definitely have like no. I don't have polyps or nodes or anything, but I have a lot of like husk to my voice because when I was a kid, I would talk a lot when I was sick. So it gives it just adds a lot of texture. But there are actors that I always think of Richard Horvitz, who I love, who has a really naturally textured voice that he uses for the characters that he builds. So for someone like that, or even someone like me, I accept where my voice is at, and I don't necessarily want to change it. But I also don't want to do something, which is why like games and stuff can be dangerous, is that takes away my ability to do certain voices ever again. So it's like, like how many singers have to transpose their songs down after time? Like
a lot.
Elton John's
Almost
playing
all
like
of them.
three down. Yeah.
Almost all of them.
So the problem is when you're a voice actor, you don't have that luxury because those characters can't sound different.
And they can't age.
They can't age. Like Tom Kenny, who does the voice of SpongeBob, has to still and
he's been doing it for 15 years now or whatever.
And you know what? It cannot. Side by side, it's incredible like how he's been able to sustain that because it sounds exactly the same.
Yeah. That's
crazy.
That's a professional. Right
yeah,
there, for sure. And you've gotten. That's what's cool is like since we've talked to you, your career has taken you to all different aspects, games and shows, and you've done stuff for amusement park rides and things. And so you've gotten to work not only in this industry, but with obviously some of the people that you idolize and like love, right? Like being able to work alongside that must be vindicating for you, right? Like,
yeah, I it's so weird because I don't think of it as like, yes, I did it, I'm awesome. I think of it more like, what is my life?
Yeah,
like, this is so ridiculous.
Yeah. Like as a nerd, I have to bring it up because we've actually brought it up on the show when you posted about it.
Yeah.
But I mean, you got to work with freaking Mark Hamill. I know I don't think we can talk about the project that you worked on yet, but I mean, what was that like being in a room with Luke Skywalker? Come on. You're as big a nerd as I am. I mean, come on.
It's ridiculous. I mean, it's and he's a giant nerd. I mean, he is.
Really?
Oh my God. Well,
has he ever seen Star Wars?
No, I don't know. But he has a ton of like he's really into like Batman. Before he was on Batman, he'd always been into like comic books and has a huge collection.
Yeah.
And he's just so easy to talk to. But what's so weird is being able to be in a room with someone and the generosity that comes from an actor who has done way more than I've done. Like it would take me 2 lifetimes of average work to catch up to his body.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And he is so generous and kind and just like, gives you the time of day and in voiceover because most voice actors don't get seen a lot.
Right.
We're just getting into the time where they get recognized a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's mostly at conventions or like contexts where people like know who they are. But it's a business that most everyone does not have an ego. It's just about like, oh, and I have heard this, and this is true. There are times that people have gone in for jobs and recommended other voice actors. Hey, if I didn't get you what you needed, call so-and-so. They do this.
Wow.
That's really cool.
That's insane, right?
Community.
That's a real thing.
Because that doesn't, like, going back to the music industry, that doesn't happen. It's like, oh, we can't play this show. Get this band.
Yeah.
It's like, no, never.
No.
Like, it's everybody for themselves.
Yeah, like, I've gotten jobs because other performers have mentioned me during recording. And
wow.
said, oh, you should get Brock for this. And just that kind of kindness and generosity. And it's also just weird because, like, always back to Milo. I'm on a show with like Christian Slater and like, right? Yeah,
right.
It's nuts. It's just crazy. Thomas Lennon, who was,
oh my God, yeah.
It's just, and it's fun because now, because we don't record together, everyone has this common experience. So when I run into these people, I go, oh, we worked on Milo together. And like, I got to meet Peter Stormare, who he and I were at the Radio Disney Music Awards together. And Peter Stormare is a super famous character actor. He was a lot of Coen Brother movies.
Yep.
If you saw Fargo, he was the guy that was like, we must go to Pancake House.
Yes.
I think he gets thrown in the wood chipper.
I think so.
But he is such a character. He works on Milo. Clancy Brown works on Milo. Wow. And so I've gotten to know all these actors that I love just as an actor.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think in general my acting's gotten better because like I don't care anymore.
Yeah.
Like in terms of like there's no fear. It's just like it's all very like, did you get what you need? Okay, if not, we'll just keep going or get someone else.
That's awesome.
And I think to have that as an artist is a really, that's just where the power is, because so much of living in Los Angeles is you're constantly giving your power away.
Yeah.
You're waking up, you're not sure who's going to need you where, you're on hold for stuff. You know, a lot of times there's windows for things like, hey, we'll get back to you in the next 6 hours or 60 days. Okay, bye.
I feel like probably everybody gets back to you all at once, right?
It's The joke is if you want to book work, book a trip. If you go on a trip, 9 times out of 10 an actor will tell you they got work when they come back, or they need to move their trip because they have a job that records as they're going to the airport.
Wow.
I've had auditions where I had to audition in an airport in like an abandoned Southwest kiosk. And like I took a blanket out of my carry-on and had to make like a little recording booth to audition for this thing. I mean, sometimes it's just that last minute.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, it's awesome to hear from someone like you because, I mean, we've been kind of following your journey as you've broken into this business, and now you're in that point.
We've been with you on your journey.
I mean, you guys literally have like the amount of support that you guys have just to have people that you can talk to about, like, because I'll call you. I'll tell you when I book
talk
stuff
all the time,
and I'll tell you like, hey, I got this thing, because I know that you guys like the support is real. It's not just this like, hey, so you put out another record, neat. There's like this real like. Because I feel like we're in this together, like not just this, but like whatever it is that we're trying to accomplish, you have to have people that are on your team and supporting each other. Because there are so many times that like, if you don't take every moment you can to celebrate something, you're just gonna get down.
Yeah.
There's just so much to celebrate. So it's nice to be able to share stuff.
Well, we can't appreciate you enough for everything that you do for us, for the show, for the company. And I'll tell you right now, it's already to the point where like we'll go to events or something like that, and with the way that this show has like built momentum, and people are, you know, especially that enjoy Death Wish Coffee and then also either watch or listen to our show. One of the things I get a lot now is people coming up and just they'll look at me and go, "Gah, science!" Like, and it's great because it just warms my heart, because it's like even though they're like, oh, I like the show, and that's like kind of like what they're saying to me.
Yeah.
In my mind, it's like they're fans of Brock.
Oh,
you know, and that's what's
happy.
really cool. And like I can't wait to do more stuff with you
guys, right?
Yeah, because
like,
the sky's the limit with what we're gonna do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Excuse me for you. Shut up! You're making Dad look silly. Shame. Okay. Do we toast now?
Yeah, we toast now. Cheers.
To Brock.
Yes.
To Brock.
Thank you so much, man. It was really great to talk to you in person, and thank you so much for having us here in LA for a week.
Of course.
It was amazing.
Yeah, we didn't even confess that. You guys have been staying with me for a week, right?
Yeah, it's been crazy.
We picked one part of the mansion. We can't have everyone.
No.
All
the butlers
are
back
there on their break. They just need to sleep. I find that if they get 6 minutes of sleep, that normally they try to poison me less. So that's nice.
That's good. That's good. Awesome. Well, cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks.
This has been Fueled by Deathcast, a Death Wish Coffee Company podcast production. Thanks for listening.